It's Friday, August the 29th. Good morning and welcome to your perfect day starter, the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And I'm Jeffrey, as always, and it's a weekend edition of the program, and as always, we'll do our best to bring you up to speed with the big happenings in the country.
Definitely. One of the biggest sectors, in fact, the biggest, if you look at it over the years, has been the petroleum sector. Yes, it's the cash cow. It is the most opaque. A lot of people would tell you that. So it didn't really come as a surprise, Jeffrey, when Mr. Bayo Julari, the NNPC GCEO, said yesterday that the management, of course, including himself, are under attack. But that's just one part of what he said yesterday when he met with the leadership of Pengassan, because they went to him and said, Mr. Julari, we spent billions on refineries. We rejoiced when the Port Harcourt refinery opened, only to hear that it has been shut down. What exactly is going on? So take a listen to what Mr. Bayo Julari said in response, and we'll come back.
We've now completed the commercial review for the Port Harcourt refinery. And from that commercial review, we have come to that conclusion that the best way forward is for us to get a true professional refining company to join us and cooperate with us. The long term will be better for everybody, but not everybody is patient for that. So, and I think that's what you see. So there's no hiding around all the attacks that I have received. We are under attack. And I repeat again, NNPC, we are under attack. However, we know why this attack is coming. We have our commitment and we are resolved to stay focused, to drive the mandate that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given us. No. We've now completed.
So there you hear Mr. Julari saying they are under attack. A lot of people interpreted that as his life is being threatened. Some others interpreted it as his position is being threatened. Different interpretations, particularly because the previous GCEO, Mr. Melekiari, had said his life was being threatened as well as a result of the happenings in that sector. So it's almost like a perennial thing. In fact, the Minister of Petroleum Resources before him, that's Mr. Kachiku, also said that his life was being threatened. So it's almost like something you expect to hear. Our life is being threatened because of what we're doing in that sector. But the big question is this, or is it finally clear now, the state of that refinery? Jeffrey, you know, remember the hue and cry about whether or not it is blending, whether or not it is operating optimally. In fact, Mr. Julari said there's no old or new refinery, that they're meant to work together, right? So all they talk about the old refinery is working, or the new refinery is, he said, no, they're meant to work together. So we just shut it down, losing about 500 million naira daily.
It's an interesting development. And NNPCL has been, it's been a love and hate relationship with the NNPCL. Everybody should be interested in what happens in the NNPCL, because as we speak, at least for today, and from yesterday to today, NNPCL plays a key role. Crude oil, for instance, plays a key role in our FX earnings as far as our export is concerned. We always say that the economy locally is diversified, but our earnings are really not that well diversified. We see a lot of dependency on the oil and gas sector. We're actually a gas nation because we have over 200 trillion cubic feet of reserve in terms of our gas and less than about 45 billion barrels of crude oil. So we're actually a gas nation. So the gas element is being looked at. There's a master plan being worked on. Coming back to the issue of Mr. Julari, well, he should know. I know that he's not a politician, and I understand he also said that maybe he has to learn a bit of politics. It's a territory that a lot of people are interested in, both the international community and people locally. If you have listened to Aliko Dangote, he will tell you that the cartel and the cabal in that space is worse than what you think. That's why you see him go the extent he goes when he wants to do the things he wants to do, because if you're not up and going, upwardly mobile, aggressively, you're going to be swallowed up in that space. So it's not a surprise. Perhaps it's a surprise to Mr. Julari, but it's not a surprise if you're familiar with that space, that if you're bringing reforms, if you're trying to make changes that will affect the people that were enjoying the benefit of the things not working, they will come at you naturally. So what we need to do now is to rally around him and support him, protect him to the best of our ability. It looks like a gentleman who has a clear intention. For instance, one of the things he's done is that every month, for instance, he publishes like a dashboard. You know how much we're earning, or how much we've earned, how much is going to FAC, how much production we've done. So just a dashboard, just to bring transparency. Because when he took over, we're saying it's not about expertise. He's a very professional to the core, but expertise is not enough. Transparency is key, and he's going to show that direction. He spoke to one of the international media at some point and said, look, the idea of the refinery was great, but it didn't work out as it was supposed to be. And they asked him, is there a plan to sell it? He said, well, that may not be off the table. Perhaps right now we can correctly say that it's going to be more like an equity, the NLNG model, where the private equity, the private investors have bigger shares of the company, the federal government has lesser. So that means that the private people will be running it. The federal government just sits on the board. I think it's a good direction. But let's not spend, let's be sure of another round of spending that is not going to go down the drain. 1.5 or $2 billion that was spent is too much money to be wasted. NNPC had lied to us severally. They lied to us about deadline. They lied to us about whether the new refinery in Port Harcourt is able to distillate from the column straight to PMS, which was not true. They didn't tell us the truth until people found out. So NNPC has been, is a funny space to be, but it's a place we need to pay attention to. So for me, I support whatever he's going to do to make it work. I think the NLNG model is working, so we can see. So if that's a model to adopt, that's the way to go. We need this money, all right?
Certainly.
As long as transparency is involved.
Definitely. So we wait to see how things play out in that sector. Which refinery will they be cooperating with? What will the model be and all of that? We'll definitely be feeding you as soon as those details come out. But speaking of money, Jeffrey, we saw the Imo State government increasing minimum wage. They said that the payment will start at the end of September, at least when we spoke to the government representative yesterday. But Ebonyi State has now followed suit, with Governor Wifuru also announcing an increase in the minimum wage from 70 to 90,000 naira. So I'm kind of wondering, is this as a result of what President Tinubu said some weeks ago, that, you know what, governors, you need to wet the grass? So is this wetting the grass in that sense? But hey, Ebonyi State has followed suit. But guess what? Labor unions in Lagos State say, Lagos, do not do 90,000 naira, because anyway, you're doing beyond that. Do not do 110,000. What we want is 150,000 naira minimum wage. Fair deal, Jeffrey.
How much is Lagos paying now?
Plus 100, I think.
Okay. Lagos is a big economy. Lagos should be paying maybe in the upward of 200,000, if you will. They have the capacity.
Let me just check.
just confirm that data. I really don't know what is going on. Perhaps it's because of the record fact we're getting in naira terms, as far as the administration is concerned, given the fact that they've taken away loads of their wage bill, from PMS subsidy to part electricity subsidy to not defending the naira except it's super absolutely necessary. So that in itself has taken a burden from, maybe, if my calculation is right, 6 trillion, another 2 trillion, let's say in the neighborhood of about 10 trillion naira. Now the market will sort itself out. So all of that money perhaps is helping the purse of the federal government to be able to share enough FAC, because we've seen record high FAC, 2 trillion, sometimes being held back so that there's not so much liquidity in the system to spike already bad inflation situation we have, although it's moderating at around 22%, even though it's quite high. So I hope this is not also a political stunt as well, but we congratulate the workers of Ebonyi State as well as the workers of Imo State.
I must say, Lagos is paying 85.
I remember that Lagos is paying.
I don't know how 100 came to my mind.
I know that Lagos, I wanted to be sure. When you threw that figure, I was like, okay, maybe there's a bit of the news I missed out on. But I don't know what the first states in Nigeria to cross the 100,000 minimum wage boundary, or 100,000 minimum wage, I think is Imo State.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Wifuru, is it 90 or 100?
Yes, 90.
90. So The economy of a Ebonyi state is not really that big. I don't know the size of the, the workers. So perhaps he had looked at the size of the worker. What I always ask the governors whenever we have the opportunity to talk to them is a bright idea, good, to look good and say, oh, I'm paying the minimum wage, but can you sustain it? So I look at your IGR first. How good is your IGR? A lot of these states without FAC, which is also their money technically, because FAC is all our money, but if we just want to run it hypothetically without FAC, maybe 34 states, or let me say 30 states in Nigeria may have closed shop. So they should, prop up their IGR as much as possible, pay the workers well, develop their states. So congratulations to them. As long as this is sustainable, he is seeking for re-election. So this is good politics for him. So workers will like him. So congratulations to them as far as this is concerned. But make sure you're paying it, not just increasing it. Got it.
Definitely. So what more do we have for you on the program today? Well, there's a major issue brewing, and it's beyond social media. This is heading to court now. We understand that legal proceedings have, begun against lawyer, activist Mr. Deji Adeyanju over comments he made about Mr. Peter Obi as a 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate. This is a matter now that is trending online. So today we'll have Mr. Deji Adeyanju joining us on the program to speak to these allegations, comments made, what exactly his grouse is with Mr. Peter Obi.
And away from that, we'll be discussing something quite important about care for our parents. They are aging, they've done their bit in raising, in nurturing, in paying fees and doing all the things they've done. Now they're on the, like the twilight of their life, but are we really taking care of the parents? And for those of them who fall ill, could some of these things have been avoided if the right systems were put in place, but at the family level, at the institutional level? That is a very important conversation as far as elderly people are concerned. As usually, if you're in your 40s, it's also important to join this conversation as well.
Certainly, and this is particularly important because you have a lot of Nigerians leaving the country for other countries to work as care workers for the elderly. So who's taking care of the elderly back home? So it's a very important conversation because at some point, everybody will get to that age, if you're fortunate enough. And then we talk music on the program today. This man won one of Nigeria's major music reality shows. But what's next for him? Because it's one thing to win the reality shows, it's another thing to keep that momentum. So we'll have a sit down with this gentleman to find out how he's riding on the Nigerian Idol win.
All right. So that's the outlook for the program today, and a couple of other things in between what you're saying on socials as well as the dailies, which is where we're going next. Daya Kintobi, our regular analyst on the program, joins us in just a moment. Stay with us. All right, so let's bring in Mr. Daya Kintobi, journalist, public affairs analyst. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
My pleasure always.
And you look black and white.
I got the memo this time that Friday is Thailand Day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It feels a bit strange not having that rope around the neck.
Yeah.
It's freedom,
Yes, it's freedom.
It's absolutely lovely.
And it looks fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. That's kind of you.
So let's get to the first dailies here. The Leadership newspaper, Leadership Friday, is leading with the educational sector. FG ASU dispute lingers as minister denies past agreements. Alausa insists FG has no binding pact with union. Says Yahya Ahmed-led committee to renegotiate the ASU agreement. I guess FG union meeting fails to hold. Is that going to be?
Here we go again.
Are we here again?
Yes,
the other day we had the ASU president here, and as we're having the conversation, it's something just proper. I said, let me ask him, how much is this? Because there are a couple of other things. So, for instance, wanted to find out how much is the entirety of these monies that is always an issue besides every other thing they asked for. So the one he had on record for us when we asked about the arrears, you know, they went on strike and then there was a back and forth, no work, no pay between them and former President Muhammadu Buhari and all of that. Eventually they came back from, I think, 8 months and some salaries were owed and all back and forth. I think some arrears were still held back about 3 months or so. And I said, how much is this money? He said about 8.5 billion. So it's embarrassing. What is 8.5 billion to the federal government, for God's sake? The money they gave the Tigers and the Falcons is about 5-point-something billion if you look at the exchange rate. So, should we go these routes?
It's not that the government can't afford to pay it. They are not paying it because they don't have the money. 8.5 is a drop in the bucket for the federal government. There are bigger issues, and you can begin to see where that comes from in the denials about having an agreement. Federal government is saying we didn't sign any agreement. What we had is a draft. ASU is saying federal government is not keeping to the agreement that they both agreed to. Whether it was actually physically signed, the truth of the matter is there was an agreement, which is why the strike was called off. Every strike gets called off after they are sat at the negotiating table and reached an understanding. So clearly, that strike you talked about that lasted 8 months was called off after they reached some sort of an agreement. And as we're saying, as far back as 2009, they already had a written agreement, which is what has been
reviewed over and over and over.
Reviewed, but that 2009 document basically is the guiding law that they have been dealing with ever since, and that's what reviews have been based on. So as far as they're concerned, they do have a binding agreement with the government. They just simply try and get it improved and updated. So you ask yourself, well, is it semantics or is it intentional misdirection? When somebody is saying, we don't have a standing agreement with you, and yet somebody else is showing something signed in 2009. If government is a continuum, this current administration is bound by what was signed in 2009, exactly, either by President Yar'Adua or by President Goodluck. I'm not sure who was in power when that agreement was signed. But the bottom line is this: we don't want any kind of disruption to our academic calendar again. Our students sitting at home. I heard somebody who said he entered university at 2020, and this is 2025, and he's nowhere near graduation due to all of the hiccups.
And it's meant to be a 4-year course, not medicine.
No, it's a 4-year course. It's not medicine. He's in for a standard bachelor's degree. He's in his 5th year, and graduation is nowhere in sight.
Wow.
So, and this is par for the course in terms of most of our students. They're all experiencing this. They know when they start. They have no idea when they're going to finish. And this is part, we're already suffering from brain drain. All our best brains are leaving the country. Even lecturers are moving in droves out of the universities and going overseas. So the few that remain here, that want to help us build a better Nigeria, that see Nigeria as the future, and that are trying to grow and develop themselves, we should encourage them in every way. What is 8.5 billion naira for the federal government that everyone will now down tools, the kids will go home and sit for a while, campuses will shut down? And you know the worst part about a strike? Starting back up. Eventually they will agree on something, which means that they could have averted the strike if they worked hard at it enough. They will eventually agree. But after they agree, look at the disruption from that break and how difficult it is to get started back up again. It's a lose-lose all the way around. The kids lose, the lecturers lose, the academic community loses, our intellectual development is arrested, and it's just a lose-lose all the way around. So why would we even bother? I don't see why the government is doing this.
So I don't think we should be shocked when we then see the outcome in our society, our economy. These are things that we caused to happen in the first place. But it's quite shocking, Mr.
Akintobi.
Nigeria's issues can just bog you down. It's quite shocking that the Solicitor General said that no agreement was signed.
That's a shock, a big one.
Because we saw all of the conversations they had. We've reached an agreement, but they're saying this is not an agreement. This was just a proposal. Again, some things don't shock me anymore, I must say. But let's move over to New Telegraph, Mr. Akintobi, and talk about this $1 trillion economy. So the NEC meeting held yesterday, the Vice President chaired, and he came out, spoke about a couple of things and said, well, the 2025 agenda ends this year, so they are switching gears now to the, I think, the 2026 to 2050 agenda.
Yes. And
they have endorsed this new medium-term strategy to align with 2050 development agenda.
Yes.
Excess crude account now $535 million.
Yes.
Million dollars. Yes. And FG says Nigeria First policy eyes 3 trillion naira earnings from made in Nigeria goods. And you see all of those interplay there. But as much as we speak about all of these agenda or medium-term goals and all of that, a lot of people still remember all the previous ones, and they wonder, were we really better for it as a nation, or these are just documents we just have for the sake of having them? Okay, let's have a document. It's time to have a document. So really, what has been missing for you? Even the UN has challenges with the SDGs and now, well, MDGs first and the SDGs, yes. Right? In fact, they had to say the SDGs will not be like the MDGs. We're going to do something entirely different and allow this to be private sector led. You guys own it. Yes. We're no more funding this. So what exactly have we been missing with these, what call them, strategy agenda in that sense?
Let's go back and remember Vision 2020. Yeah. That seemed to be the beginning of this penchant for very rosy outlooks. And essentially that's what those things are. They project into the future and say for the next certain period, we're going to do this to grow the economy. And the current one that was announced yesterday, like you say, is from 2026 to 2050. But they're saying the key word is that by 2030, we'll have a trillion naira economy. Well, the first thing is, if you look pre-May 29, 2023, how much was a trillion naira worth compared to how much a trillion naira is worth today? Is a trillion naira really a whole lot of money in terms of the entire country's GDP, the entire country's economy?
Yeah, trillion dollars.
$1 trillion.
Yes.
$1 trillion. Okay, so that changes the whole equation. As long as it's $1 trillion, I think it's a good goal. The question is, how do we sustain it? How do we reach it? Because historically, these type of long-term plans have never really been sustained. They're just put on paper and they're said to make us feel good, but do we really see the outcome over time? I think that this government, in terms of its economic reforms, seems to be focused and actually wants to achieve something. And you look at some of the indices, oil production is up. And they are predicting we'll do 2.5 million barrels a day, which of course will have a major impact on our dollar earnings. When this government came in, we were just slightly over 1 million. Now we are well over 1.5 million a day, you know, grasping at 2 million a day, close to it. If they get to 2.5, that shoots up the dollar aspect of our economy. So I look at it and I think, okay, they believe very strongly in these their reforms, because you see them touting them everywhere that, you know, yes, there was hardship for Nigeria, but what we wanted to do was stabilize the economy. And the economy is now stable. The problem with that is even if you have a stable economy, that stability has got to translate into specific economic gains for the man in the street. There is that lacuna up till now. That stability is not translating yet into economic benefits. So Vision 2050, Vision $1 trillion only becomes meaningful if we begin to see the effect on the ground and not just on paper. So they said a lot of fancy things they were going to do yesterday to make this a reality. I think it is within our ability to achieve it.
Right.
I don't doubt that Nigeria has the economic clout, the intellectual capacity, the physical energy, and the wherewithal to be able to achieve it. The question is the political will there? Is the selflessness there, the willingness to work for the common good as opposed to the individual good? Is the willingness to make sacrifices at the political level? Is Nigeria's political elite willing to put aside notions of self-interest versus notions of national interest? These are the things that make the difference between such a plan coming into reality and it just being fancy words on paper. So the jury is out on this one. The previous ones didn't achieve what they intended to beyond making us feel good, making us be optimistic for a little while. And you know, Nigerians, we have famously short memories. So they said this yesterday, 6 months, 9 months down the road, would have forgotten about it and be focusing on something else. So they will go quietly into the good night and not say anything about it again if they're not able to meet up to what they've promised to do.
You know, the sectors that are supposed to drive this is high capital intensive. So development stands on a tripod of, you know, infrastructure led by power. So if power is not sorted, we're going nowhere. Another element is the issue of human capital, skills, scalability. This is what China has used to outplay America. America is still trying to grapple with how to deal with China. Because for every 10 you see in America, you may see another 20,000 in. And then you also look at technology. So these are some of the elements as far as that. And when I see this ambition, great ambition, that we need to edge around maybe close to double digits in terms of our GDP yearly to be able to achieve this. But maybe moving away from the economy, just need to put that in. Let's go to the Daily Times newspaper that talks something that has to do with security. Chief of Army Staff raises concerns over drug abuse among soldiers in conflict zones. Chief of Army Staff raise concerns over drug abuse among soldiers in conflict zones.
That's a scary thing. That's really worrisome. Because
is this about abuse or about
stress relief?
There's another word I'm looking for. Maybe when it comes, I'll let you know. But something close to stress relief.
Yeah,
what do you think is happening here?
Being
coping mechanism. That's the word I was copying.
It's possible, and I know that even in the United States, many of their servicemen have had substance abuse problems over time. They've had psychological issues because being on the front lines and seeing your very life flash in front of you does have a psychological impact any which way you look at it. And people have different coping mechanisms. Some people are able to withstand that kind of pressure, and there are others who need an escape to be able to remain sane and remain functional. In that environment, they need an escape. And so various people have different coping mechanisms. There are a number of them who have turned to substance abuse because, of course, substance use gives you an altered state of consciousness. And maybe that's what they need to be able to cope out in the field. But it is worrisome because when you are in an altered state of consciousness from substance use, you could possibly become erratic and unpredictable, which is the worst thing that can happen out in the field. Your colleagues need to be able to count on you because you are each other's brother's keepers and you are responsible for keeping each other alive. If your colleagues can't count on you, you become a liability in the battlefront. And so this is a really worrisome development. I know Nigeria as a whole has a drug problem, a drug usage, a substance abuse problem as a whole. And you look at it and you wonder that is it really possible that the social ills that pervade the society, won't they have a way of seeping into certain other sectors like the military? What fortification does the military have to keep out the social ills that pervade our society? What are the things? Yeah, they receive training. But most of their training relates to physical ability. How much psychological training do they get? How much emotional fortification do they receive during their training process? So this is a scourge that is having a deleterious effect on the larger society. Now imagine what it's going to do if it pervades the ranks of those who are out there defending our territorial integrity, and even now we're relying on them more for internal security as well. It's a worrisome development. I don't know what our military brass is going to do about it. I know there's rehab options. There's always been internationally two different schools of thought. Do we attack the supply side? Do we attack the demand side? Where do you pay the attention? And for a long time, America fought the demand side. They locked up and threw the key away of every drug dealer. Even if it was the smallest quantity of grams, you'd get a life sentence. But what that did in America was it fueled the demand because it got harder to get. It fueled the demand to where demand got out of hand. Now America has had a rethink over the years. They're looking at the demand side and paying more attention. That's why you see things like legalization of marijuana in certain states. You see it approved for medical use in other states. So they're looking less at the punishment aspect of the demand,
less of
supply,
criminalization,
less of criminalization of the supply side, and they're looking at treatment and abstinence options on the demand side. So it's a very tough social problem to handle, and it's really worrisome. And I hope that both the Ministry of Health, the military brass and administration, and all those who can play a role in this, even down to the NDLEA, NAFDAC, anybody that has any tangential involvement both on the supply and the demand side, need to buck up and address this quickly, because it is the most debilitating thing that could ever happen to our troops if this becomes a virus in the midst of the men and women.
Oh dear. What a grim picture, but there's hope. But let's switch gears to the Guardian newspaper, Mr. Akintobi. I think for Friday, the Guardian tries to tone it down a bit. And the focus is on sports. And the caption is, "Bad for business. Surge in unruly fan conduct. Match day violence plunge MPFL in crisis." And you can see pictures. In fact, there's one picture you can see, I think, a fan kicking the referee.
Wow.
From behind.
And the referee running to his lights.
The referee is running, and you can see the colleagues watching, like, maybe thank God I'm not the one being kicked. You can see another picture of fans intruding into the pitch. Two pictures, actually. And, you know, I was just trying to do some comparison. Again, they say don't compare, but they're always quick to compare.
Yes.
And you see the EPL, for example, maybe that's shooting too high, but let's just compare for the sake of comparing. And you see how much just TV rights alone is worth for the EPL. I'm not talking about the whole EPL. You see how much the tickets go for. You see how much it is celebrated. You see the whole ecosystem of the EPL. That's the English Premier League. I just think if the United Kingdom relies on EPL alone, that's like oil for them.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's great work. If any country is able to harness such, fantastic. But here we are at the MPFL, still battling very mundane issues like this. What exactly is the issue here, Mr. Akintobi?
Don't forget that hooliganism actually is a major problem in the EPL as well.
Exactly.
In fact, we have more issues of hooliganism in the Premier League than we do here in Nigeria. Now remember, football is like a religion in Nigeria. People are very passionate, and they've always been expressive about their passion about their favorite teams and about the game itself. But it hasn't really in Nigeria become a problem that has spiraled out of control, where fans start attacking each other and attacking the referees. We don't see that happening in spite of the passion we bring to the game. It's not part of our culture to be violent and fight over this kind of thing. So when you see that report that says on opening day, fans are chasing. I mean, in the past we've had one or two isolated incidents where there was a really egregious miscarriage of justice, perhaps like a penalty awarded that shouldn't have been awarded and cost one side the game, where fans have been vocal in their objections. But it has hardly ever risen to the level, not frequently, that we would see this kind of hooliganism like we're used to seeing in the EPL. There's hardly any match in the UK that doesn't end with some kind of fisticuffs breaking out. But
not on the pitch.
No, not on the pitch, unless after the match.
Exactly, outside. Do your thing outside.
Absolutely. I think, well, you know that we have a rabid following and an almost personalized relationship with our favorite teams in the EPL. And I think not only are we taking on their colors, their culture, but we're also imbibing some of their behavior. So I think Western culture has seeped into our environment so much that we're taking on a lot of their attributes, positive and negative, because you wouldn't in the past see our fans getting violent with each other or getting violent with the officials. But in the EPL, it has started to look like this is the way we do it, even if it's off the pitch, on the pitch, whatever the case may be. When we're not happy about something happening, we express it physically. Now, in Nigeria, as passionate as we are about football, you would expect that our own football league will be almost tops in the world in terms of fan participation, in terms of team support, in terms of TV rights. But yet, we're just doddering along like it barely registers on the radar screen that we even have a league. And you wonder, where's the dichotomy coming from? If you've got this massive fan base, this massive amount of passion for the game. So what that tells you is that the administrators and the organizers are failing to harness the vast potential market that we have in Nigeria for football. And yet you see our players going overseas and excelling. So it's not for a lack of talent. We've got the talent that can propel us into a world-class league. But because the organization is poor. I mean, the problems are systemic. You're at National Stadium watching a football match, electricity power shuts down.
Why are you watching the match at night? Why don't you go and play? Anyway, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I know you're just being tongue-in-cheek facetious, but the point is there are systemic issues and then there are organizational and administrative issues as well. And so you begin to see a breakdown in the orderliness, in the process, in the functionality. Remember, sports, apart from being a unifier, is also a pastime that is supposed to relieve tension. It's meant to make us forget our issues, for that 90 minutes while you're watching that match. Nothing else exists in the world. Not your bills, not the school fees, not your landlord's rent, nothing for those 90 minutes. So it's a very good way to make you forget the issues that may be plaguing you. But now what we're doing is we're bringing our issues in.
Yes, so in fact, that's the point you feel tension the most when you're watching. And we saw the result with the Chan Eagles. I mean, Sudan defeated Chan Eagles 4-0. And that's a local player, so it's just clear. From
Sudan that is even in crisis, by the way.
Yes,
okay, before we leave the Guardian newspaper, there's another story just at the bottom right, I think.
Yes.
Nigeria facing malnutrition, 79% food insecure, says FG. I think one of the permanent secretaries at a roundtable had made the assertion about malnutrition, undernutrition, even overnutrition in that sense. That entire box, and talking about food insecurity, 79, that's quite, this is coming from the federal government. What do you think they are saying here?
Well, that's justification for President Tinubu going to Brazil, because one of his focal points in Brazil was food security. Agriculture was the main thing, although he also went to talk about energy
and aviation.
But agriculture was the key. And part of the reason for that, of course, is because we're not producing enough to feed ourselves. And the only way a country can actually ever attain food security is to be able to grow what it needs to feed itself. As long as you are still importing, reliant on importation, you will always be food insecure. And that's why the deal with the Brazilians is supposed to be about knowledge transfer, technology transfer, not just be importing their beef. That's not what the president went there to do. The idea was let them come here and help us set up in such a way that we'll be able to produce enough for ourselves to eat. Now, part of the problem, of course, with food distribution, food production in this country is insecurity. Insecurity has had a major impact on our ability to produce food. Bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, herder-farmer clashes have vastly depleted our capacity to produce. Prior to this major insecurity problem, we were closer to being able to feed ourselves and relied a bit less on imports than we do today, because we produced more. Yams, tomatoes, poultry, even livestock. We were able to actually produce quite a bit, even if it didn't get to the point of fully feeding us. We didn't rely so much on importation. But the moment this insecurity got out of hand, then our ability to produce dropped. And that meant that so we don't starve, we had to rely on bringing food in. So you begin to see malnutrition become a problem, because why? Imported food is expensive. Naira is devalued. And so it costs more to buy anything that you bring in. Even the one they produce here still costs more, because the people who are producing here say, well, we're buying expensive fuel, we're paying for expensive electricity, we're this, we're that. So even the cost of locally produced is up, and then imported is even higher. So how do poor people, less privileged people, working class people, how do they not get malnourished? When we were growing up, you were guaranteed 3 square meals a day in Nigeria. Today, I think they have a formula they use. I think they used to say 111 was breakfast, lunch, dinner. Then it became 101 or 110. Now it's 001, and in some cases 000.
Interesting. You know, some arguments come, so food is expensive here, it's cheaper here, and all of that. But generally, prices have gone up relative to where we're coming from.
Absolutely.
This Nigeria leads with the NNPCL. NNPC refineries lose 500 million naira monthly, says Ojulari. That's by Ojulari, the CEO. 6 foreign expertise says attacks, sack plots won't derail reforms. You know, there was a time we had whether he tendered his resignation. Well, this is the cabal at their finest.
Yes.
The persons that don't want it to function and work. We don't know the backstory, whether it has to do with him signing off certain things or the reform is going to close the loophole that is being used to milk our nation dry. We will expect him to be brave enough to tell us the things that he can say. I'm sure there are things he can say on television, but we expect him to be brave enough to say that. But he said what he has to say. Look, the model we're using for our refineries is not going to work. We have a working model. Let's adopt it. NLNG. You know, the federal government maybe has about, is it 48 or so %, and then the other people, the private investors, have the majority on the table. What do you make of it?
So, well, first thing was I listened to his exchange with the New Peng people, Pengasan people yesterday, and it was a bit revealing. First and foremost, I wasn't happy that he didn't name the people who are after him.
Too early in the day.
Well, he says petitions have been written to the EFCC, so clearly he has some idea about who is after him, and if somebody truly is trying to eliminate you or assassinate you, the police should already be on the tails of that person. They may not be able to reveal to us publicly. But the thing that bothers me is that even the most illiterate, unlettered, unenlightened Nigerian has known for decades that the model of government trying to run the refineries does not work. But yet you saw the last administration. Thankfully, Mele Kyari's accounts have been frozen recently, but hopefully it goes a bit beyond that. But you saw how they deceived Nigerians, saying that Port Harcourt was coming on stream tomorrow, and they kept giving us dates. And at one point, they brought a bottle of oil and said this was produced at the Port Harcourt refinery. And then there was the argument of, oh, it was blended oil from Malta. Right. And they just kept dribbling us and dribbling us and dribbling us. And they kept giving dates. Port Harcourt will work. I assure you, Port Harcourt will work next week. After that, Warri will work. After that, Kaduna will work. And government is a continuum. Even the Mele Kyari was still in this present administration at its inception. Yet, we found out that this is a deceit, this is a fraud, and it looks like Mr. Ojulari is trying to clean it up. From everything he says and from things that have been happening around him, he seems committed to reform. I like the notion of the fact that he says we need a different type of business model to make this thing work. We're going to bring in experienced refiners to joint venture with us, to do a JV with us, and we work together to try and make this thing. But look at the staggering numbers. He said the refineries were losing $500 million, not Naira. Not Naira.
I think it was Naira.
Was it Naira?
Yeah. It had better be Naira, Mr.
I hope.
He said
because
Naira.
I really panicked because I saw the dollar sign and I said, if it is this much, we are bankrupt already as a country.
Maybe you spend dollars a lot, so you automatically discovered.
So, but those numbers were so staggering that even in Naira, that he said when he came on board and saw that we were losing this kind of money and we're not getting anything for it, the first thing he did was shut down the refineries. So people have been there drawing salaries, getting ESTA code for expenses, running diesel, running electricity, running costs, and they're not producing anything, but they're drawing salaries. So the first thing he did was say, look, I've done an audit, I see that there's no point losing all this kind of money every month. So he says he shut down all the refineries. Let's regroup, let's re-strategize and start from scratch. So he's now concluded that they want to do a JV with some international refinery companies, that these refineries will work. Well, we've heard it all before, but he seems to be cut off a slightly different cloth from those we're used to seeing, and I really wish him success and hope.
I think
it'll benefit all of us as Nigerians.
There's a model working, so I'm happy. We're not saying it's anything out of the box.
No, NLNG is brilliant.
NLNG, the model is working.
Perfectly.
The government is involved, but they are not running it.
No, they're hands off.
Yeah, so they just have a vote on the table, make a few decisions, but they don't have a final say. That is what he's saying.
But NLNG is not new now. It's been there for 10, 15 years. How come the previous obvious NNPC people didn't think that and say, well, let's do it this way.
No, they wanted the ancestral refineries to keep working. Now it has failed.
Yes. Dangote has shown them all up.
Yes, Dangote came and built and is working, so it's a shame on us.
Absolutely.
But we're happy somebody's trying to pick it up.
I think so.
And we'll support anything that makes the country work.
Absolutely.
Mr. Peter Obi, Public Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
My pleasure always.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Deji Adeyanju will be joining us. There's a lawsuit against him from, I understand, lawyers from Mr. Peter Obi about some defamatory statement. Seeking a retraction. I think he also filed his own suit against one of his followers, or one of the followers of Mr. Peter. But there's this back and forth as to what is exactly playing out. Well, he'll be explaining to us what is happening in just a moment. Stay with us.
This is a matter that is hogging the headlines, particularly on social media. It's between Mr. Deji Adeyanju, a lawyer and activist, and the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. Of course, you have the obedience as well in that corner. We have joining us on the program today, Mr. Deji Adeyanju himself, a human rights activist and lawyer. He's live with us from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the program, Mr. Adeyanju.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, it's good to have you. So this letter dated August the 26th, 2025, was posted by you. It was addressed to Mr. Deji Adeyanju, that's you, of course, Deji Adeyanju and partners. And it's titled, Demand for Retraction and Apology for Defamatory Publications Against His Excellency, Mr. Peter Gregory Obi. It's about 5 pages or so long. So I'm not going to go through all of that, all of the details in that document, but I'll just take a part of it. It speaks to some of the posts that you made on X with your handle at Adeyanju Deji. And this document says that you have repeatedly published false, malicious, and grossly defamatory statements concerning Mr. Peter Obi, and they say it's calculated to injure his reputation before right-thinking members of the Nigerian public and the international community. In fact, one of those posts says, Peter Obi can only be president of the obedience on social media. You see that my one vote, I will rather give it to Tinubu than the leader of the mob, in your words, political extremists who do not want Nigerians to criticize their presidential candidate have no place in our polity. Mr. Adeyanju, as I said, 5 pages long, lots of things said, but let's just start by saying this is not in court yet, so we can discuss this. What exactly is your grouse against Mr. Peter Obi and the obedience?
Yes, so in the wake up to the 2023 general election, because I'm not political, I'm just expressing my thoughts about why the opposition should come together and unite against the criminal APC and roguish APC government that always rig elections. That if the opposition is divided, that there's no way they can win. I was just expressing my political thoughts and views. The idea of the Obi candidacy excited me, and I said, but that he needed the buy-in of Atiku and Kwankwaso. I even urged Kwankwaso to deputize Obi. I urged Atiku to step down for Peter Obi, and all that. So in the process of that analysis, just expressing my views, I also said the fact that Atiku has been running for president in perpetuity, that he cannot continue to run. I was just expressing my views as a Nigerian. So then Peter Obi all of a sudden started trying to reach out to me to meet me. But at that time I was out of the country. I think I was in Dubai or somewhere. So, but he was persistent in reaching out to me. And I was avoiding him. But, I didn't want to see him because I didn't want it to look like, oh, because I've expressed my views, which seems to be like almost in his favor. He now wants to see me and corner me to be one of his supporters. I don't want to support any politician because I'm not partisan. Because some people had already started even resigning from activism and joining him. You know, so I didn't want to join his bandwagon, but I was excited by the idea of Peter Obi because, of course, Southeast have not produced a president in a very long time, except after post-independence anyway. So I was excited. So subsequently, I made some further views, and this time around, he was more persistent. So one of his aides, a journalist, reached out to me. So we subsequently met. And I said, yes. He commended me for some of my views and all that and said that it would be exciting to work together. I said, I'm not working with anybody. But I now made some observations about the things that he has been accused of doing in the past. Corruption. Sarah reporter reported a story where his staff was caught with money. He tried to explain it, but I was not satisfied. Then I also raised the issue about these issues of him using state resources in Anambra to invest in his family business. His explanation to me in his defense was that he had resigned from the company before he became a governor. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't just wait to get up to leave the place. I'm like, how can a man that wants to be president of Nigeria not see the clear abuse? You understand? That he has abused his office to do such a thing. He was justifying it. He didn't see anything wrong in it. I was completely disgusted. So eventually, I didn't want to disrespect him, so I wanted to leave. And then he got into, because we're like in the living room, it's like a suite. Then he got into a room and said, oh, please, he's coming. That he wants to go inside the room and he has something for me. So he brought one envelope or something like that. And said, no, this is just a small thing. It's just for coming, blah, blah, blah. I said, I laughed. I said, that means you don't know me. I said, and you are friends with Mimiko, former Governor Mimiko and others. There are people that was close to you. You'll have asked them about me. If we do anything, it's because of conviction. It's even me that will bring out of my money and support you. You know, so he kept insisting that it's not like that. It's not what I'm thinking. I said, God forbid. I left. So, however, I never revealed what happened to anyone. So I remember vividly, he went to, was it Egypt, to inspect some power something. At the peak of the Ekiti election, when his candidate in the Labour Party was running. So I criticized and said, you should be in Ekiti and not in Egypt. And I said, because you want to be president, you must go and campaign for your candidate and try to win. Man, his aides, some of these young boys that are around him, started insulting me that the reason why I'm criticizing him now is because that I was saying that he was okay, he was good. That the reason why I'm criticizing him now is that I brought a proposal to him and I demanded, is it 200 million or something? And that he told me that I said, me? And these are his close aides. So they started doing that. So I said, oh, because I had observed the pattern about them, that they terrorize people online, insult people, slander people. His mob, his obedient mob, were practically uncontrollable during the last election. So I said, okay, so these people do not even want dissent of any kind of criticism of their candidate of any kind. I said, okay, I said, I'm not going to even leave Tinubu alone and now face them. Because we cannot have a situation in our country or in our polity where political extremism becomes the order of the day. And Nigerians are living witnesses to the things that eventually happened to the build-up of the last election. We have never had this kind of toxic political experience. Aside the Buharis, after the Buharis, the obedient mob is the most toxic political movement that we have ever witnessed in this country. They threaten Supreme Court judges, Court of Appeal Court judges, threatening artists, threatening Professor Wole Soyinka, insulted everybody in this country because of Peter. And so, and what are the things I said? Everything I said is true. In a civil suit or criminal suit of defamation, justification, truth is a defense. What are the things I said? I said he's a political fraud, that he's paraded himself as a messiah. Of course he is a political fraud. Didn't he swear that he will never leave Abga? That any day he leaves Abga, let something which I won't want to say on TV. But he left Abga. The only thing that I forgot to say among the things that he should now add to his defamation suit is that he's a political prostitute, hobnobbing. And look at what he said about the people that he wanted to defeat in the last election. He said they operate a structure of criminality, but today he's with them. He has one leg in PDP, they are discussing with him, another leg in ADC, and he's still a member of Labour Party. Confused politician. So he should do his worst.
All right, Deji, a lot has been said. We just allowed you to say some of the things, and of course your position is well noted, but we may have to be moderate with our words, given everybody you've mentioned, whether it's the APC, Peter Obi, and everybody. I know you speak without, no matter whose ox is God, but this is TV, so that we're within regulation. But given that has been said, there was also another suit, we understand, so that we established this. I understand you have also filed a suit against one of his followers. Is that true?
Is his aide, is one of his aide that always with him, one Sarah. In the build-up to the election, she called my wife a prostitute. That my wife, and he endorses these things because these are his aides. There is no way your personal aides will be attacking people, your critics. They'll be attacking them, insulting them. There's no name. They didn't call me. They called me a terrorist. They called me a gun runner. They said I was the one that supplied his aides, his close aides. That was the one that supplied arms for gun running for Dino. What is my business with Dino? They called me a murderer. There's no name. They called me a blackmailer. Blackmailing who? This same Peter who cannot tolerate criticism today calls Shore a blackmailer in chief because Sarah reporters ran the story against him. He's a political fraud.
Okay, so
and look at I called him a religious bigot. Of course, on this station, the former PDP chairman in Anambra in his state said he was the one that divided and started the religious division in Anambra between the Anglicans and the Catholics. Look at what he did in the last election. Look at what he was discussing with my bishop, Bishop Oyedepo, the yes daddy thing, calling the election a religious war, that he should be supported because the election is a religious war. He's a religious bigot. I've said what I said, he should do his worst.
Well, Mr. Adeyanju, because this platform is an international platform, let's measure our words. I know these issues will still be discussed in court, but for the purpose of this conversation, since he's not here to speak to those issues, we don't want to be seen to be insulting anybody's sensibilities. But those points, you've made them time and again on social media. I mean, people who don't know you will probably be shocked, but this is something you've done consistently. You're an activist, and you don't seem to be afraid to say your mind. But let's look through some of the other claims in that document that was addressed to you. Because a lot of people are wondering, why are you doing this? They see you, in this sense, demarketing Mr. Peter Obi in favor of the APC, because that's what it is in that sense, because you actually said it clearly, that rather than vote for Mr. Peter Obi on that first page, you said that you would rather give your vote to President Tinubu than to give it to Mr. Peter Obi. So a lot of people are asking, are you working with the APC? They always refer to your brother as well and say, oh, there's a certain Adeyanju working with government. So let's use this medium to speak to that. Are you defending or at least are you supporting the APC by demarketing Mr. Peter Obi?
Why will somebody like me, God forbid that I support APC, support APC for what?
But you said you'd rather give your vote to Mr. Tinubu.
If the opposition presents Peter Obi, I will vote Tinubu. Because we cannot have a situation where people, a man who leads a mob that terrorizes people online, that cannot tolerate criticism, that call people all sort of, anybody that does not support their candidate is an enemy of Nigeria. Anybody that does not support the candidate has been paid, has been compromised, is supporting the government. Who has Peter Obi criticized this government like the way I've criticized? Does Peter Obi even know what democracy is? What sacrifices has he made for democracy? Look, we have put our line on the line for this country, for preservation of democracy, at personal expense of prosecution. What kind of charges have we not faced in this country? At a time I was almost charged for terrorism. They've charged me for all kinds of offenses in this country. So what are we talking about? What does this person know about democracy or preservation of democracy, for God's sake? What we are saying is that we must sanitize our polity, that we cannot have a country where people who terrorize others, who do not appreciate that people have the right. Look at what they did to Joke Silva during the election. They had artists and Nollywood people supporting them. Nobody terrorized those people. But they terrorized that woman because, and other people, because she decided to support Tinubu in the last election. People have the right. I have the right. I have never voted a bad candidate, in my opinion, before. I have never voted a bad candidate before, in my opinion. In 1999, I voted Obasanjo. In 2003, I abstained. In 2011, I voted Goodluck Jonathan. In 2015, I voted Goodluck Jonathan again against the so-called lovers of democracy who wanted Buhari. I said, there's no way somebody like me can vote Buhari, a man who truncated democracy and his antecedent. And I was vindicated. I said, Buhari's mob, they will suppress freedom of speech, freedom of expression. They will drive Nigeria into autocracy and militocracy. And that was what happened. I was vindicated. In 2019, Buhari didn't even allow me to vote. He arrested me and locked me up in a prison in Kano because I couldn't vote. In 2023, I voted Omaile Sowore. So I have never voted a bad candidate before, in my opinion and in my view. And if the opposition makes the mistake of presenting Peter, I will vote Tinubu, just to prevent Peter Obi from emerging as president. Because we cannot have a nation
Mr. Adeyanju,
where the leader of the mob will run our country.
Mr. Adeyanju, I'm happy you posited that there's a sprinkle of that extremism across board. You've mentioned Buhari. You've mentioned things around the APC. You've mentioned things about Peter Obi. But just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. No. Just a moment. I'm going somewhere.
Political extremism.
Yes, Mr. Adeyanju, I'm going somewhere. Everybody knows your antecedent. I don't think that is not in public domain. So let's speak to it. And that has to do with the fact that with the route you're going in terms of is it fire for fire or response for response, isn't yourself now descending to the same space or the same pedestal or the same bottom of that cliff that you're trying to say people should not descend to with the action you're taking already? If you get my drift.
You see, Peter, if Peter does not want to be criticized, he should go back to his house and be eating jollof rice. Anyone who puts himself up for public office must be criticized, must be scrutinized, must be insulted. Anybody who feels too big to be criticized or too big to be insulted, and it is his mentality that his aides and his obedient mob, that is the same mentality they have. That, oh, our candidate cannot be criticized, but Tinubu can be called a drug lord. Atiku can be called a looter, a thief. But our candidate cannot be criticized. Supreme Court judges can be named and shamed. Court of Appeal judges can be intimidated and criticized and even say they should go and lynch their children. You understand? But our candidate, we draw the line when our candidate is involved. So this is the political hypocrisy of these political extremists that we must never allow in our polity. We saw it under the Buharists. They didn't want anybody to criticize or analyze their candidate. And it is the same thing. Mr. Peter was the one that put himself up to be president. If he doesn't want me to criticize, I'm not insulting any obedient, I'm not insulting anybody. It is the man that has put himself up for president. I'm analyzing. I'm saying that, oh, as governor, you did this. You went around churches in this country to go and say church should take back their country. You spoke with Bishop Oyedepo and said that the election is a religious war. Therefore, you are a religious bigot. There's nothing I'm saying that is not in public domain. There's nothing I'm saying, or there's nothing I've said, or the things I've said. The only thing else that I forgot to say is that he's a political prostitute, which I've now added. So you should add it to the suit.
Well, Mr. Adeyanju, you are a lawyer. I know you've, if you can hear me, you are a lawyer. I know you've had to respond to people who said they are just 2 years at the bar. They've called you baby lawyer in that sense. But hey, you've been speaking at the NBA.
And it is within their right. It is within their right to insult me and to criticize me. It is within their right. Okay. Because I'm in the public.
There you go. But that's not where I'm going to. I just want to posit that you're a lawyer and you know how weighty some of these words are. If you go to the page 2 of the letter written to you, you used words like fraud. You use that to describe Mr. Peter Obi. I mean, you use the other
I've
word
repeated it.
time and again.
It here. I say it's a political fraud.
But I'm not done.
You've
used terms like thief in the post on X, even scum and the rest. I mean, aside the fact that you're a lawyer, a lot of people see you as a gentleman. And I mean, there are ways you can approach these issues without using those words. Why? On those same spaces, social media, there are young Nigerians who look up to you and they say, well, I want to be like Mr. Deji Adeyanju. But when they see you using these sort of terms, they wonder, aren't there other ways to approach this without descending into the gutter, as Jeffrey said, being who you are?
Yeah, I didn't get that last part.
I said, aren't there ways to approach this without seemingly descending into the gutter?
I understand the context of the question. I understand the context of the question. So simply put, very simple, everything I've said is directed at Mr. Peter Obi. Everything I've said. And if you look at how the conversation started, I was not the one who initiated the criticisms. All I did was I criticized him and said, why should you be in Egypt when you have an election in Ekiti to win? Go and they came at me. And I said, I will never respond or criticize or insult any of them. I will focus on criticizing their candidates. And I have criticized their candidates to the best of my ability. And everything I said about him is the truth. And like I've said, I said truth and justification is a defense in a civil suit of defamation. There's nothing, there's no name that they've not called Atiku, the president, and other people contesting for election. So why should Peter Obi's case should be different? Why? There's no name they have not called judges in this country. There's no name that have not been called by these people, by his mob. He's the leader of the mob. Because if he's not the leader of the mob, why are his close aides actively involved? The woman who defamed my wife works for him, the Sarah Ibrahim lady. We wrote a letter for her to retract on Monday to her. We wrote a letter to her on Monday to retract. And he wrote us a letter on Wednesday after she ran to him. So and this was one of the things we had wanted to prove and achieve, that he's the one that sends them on this errand to attack people.
Mr. Adeyanju, that would be a bit of a stretch. Sending them on errand, whether endorsing or not, is a different kettle of fish. That's why we say you should be temperate with your word. Now you're a lawyer, you're not just an activist. So let's look at broadly.
Okay. When your aides attack people, especially your critics, and you don't caution them.
I'm not debating the issues. I'm debating the context.
If Bayo Ononuga insults Peter Obi, it is assumed that it is Tinubu that is doing it.
I understand what you're saying.
But Bayo Ononuga works for someone. This lady works with him. She's always she's with him in the morning. Just every time of the day she's with him.
What was the name of the lady in question, so that we're clear?
Sarah Ibrahim.
Oh, okay. So that we're clear. But where I'm going to with my question, I was trying to say that you're a lawyer now, so there has to be that balance. So we're trying to check so that we don't go in excess. But you have a right to say what you have to say. But this is television, it's international.
And after all, he has the right of reply. He can come and say the things I've said is not true.
Mr. Adeyanju, no problem. That's another kettle of fish. Let's talk about the extremism in the political space. As you've rightly posited, it's not just... We've seen a situation in this country where politicians or supporters of politicians have carried a president's coffin. Put his name on that coffin, or carry the coffin and put the president.
The Buharis, not supporters of the Buharis.
Yes,
I already mentioned them.
I'm just giving general context now. So, because where I'm going to with this question is there really a way to stop this? Because it looks like it takes turns for every political dispensation. Do you think this is a battle that is winnable?
Yes, I think it's a winnable battle, and that is why some of us are now challenging them and saying, no. We can't have this in our politics. It's too bad. That the political actors need to caution their supporters. You cannot just allow people to insult. Even people on these channels TV, others have been bullied, called all sorts of names. Maybe because they asked some questions on interview sessions, or they did not ask the questions the obedient mob wanted them to ask, and they are labeled APC supporters. They are paid, they are insulted, they are dehumanized, all kinds of things. The Buharis, just like I said in my opener, that the Buharis started this thing, and that because they were not cautioned, the Obedient now have taken it a step further. And that is why I said that there is no way, the beauty of democracy, one of the tenets of democracy is that people have the right to support any candidate of their choosing. I voted for my election in the last election. How can I be termed an enemy of Nigeria because I voted for my election? Why should Peter Obi supporters not be allowed to vote Peter? Or Tinubu supporters not be allowed to vote Tinubu, or Atiku supporters, or supporter of anybody else? Why should people be compelled, be forced, that, oh, you must only see things in my way? That if you don't see things in my way, you are an enemy and we will deal with you accordingly. These guys threatened me during the last election that they were going to beat me. There's nothing that is why I'm eagerly waiting for the court. I can't even wait. I'm so excited to go to court.
Well, Mr. Adeyanju, as we wind down, I mean, you mentioned Sarah Ibrahim, and it's only fair to even speak to some of the things she has said, because there's been a lot of back and forth between you and her. And, you know, she put up a post recently that you're a married man, and you zoom into her picture for your screensaver, and you post about her every day. She describes it as obsession. Are you obsessed with her, just to speak to that?
Even if I were to ever be obsessed with anyone in this life, is this somebody that does errand girl for Peter Obi that I... Just imagine. Of all the people in Nigeria, I'm not obsessed with Nollywood actors, actresses. I'm not obsessed with Instagram baddies. Somebody that does errand girl for Peter Obi, that works with Peter Obi, that insults people daily for a living.
All right, Mr. Adeyanju.
Yeah, sorry, Kyrie. So, at the end of the day, I'm sure that all of you, we all get insulted, we all get called out. So it's not just, it's everywhere. So for supporters of APC, PDP, Labour, everybody, we get all of that. Perhaps it's part of what comes to the job as far as this job is concerned. But in closing, before we let you go, Mr. Adeyanju, if they take this case to court, are you also going to... Have you instituted the suit against Sarah already? I just wanted to be sure of that, so I'll put the facts right. Because I wanted to know what actually...
We are filing this morning.
Okay, are you filing because she didn't apologize?
Yeah, we gave her a letter of retraction. I've never known this lady. I didn't even know the lady existed until the day she called my wife a whore. Okay. I've never known the lady. There was no context whatsoever.
Yeah, okay. We needed to put
I was just criticizing her candidate.
Okay. We need to put all the facts on the table and all the issues that brought this latest round of possible litigations that we'll maybe witnessing in the coming days. But that's as much we can take with you. Kyrie.
Oh, yes, Mr. Deji, we have to thank you for your time. The last page, by the way, of that document says that you have 7 days. The letter was written on the 26th of August. I don't know when you received it, so I'm guessing you have about 4 more days to retract it. Else, it is said here...
I'm so scared. Oh, I'm shaking in my pants. Oh.
So are you going to be retracting it? Because they said that this will include a claim for aggravated damages for defamation, an order of injunction, and cost of legal proceedings.
I have doubled down. I will never retract.
All right.
I doubled down. That's why I posted it and doubled down.
Okay. So this is a case of you'll never turn back. It's already too late, I imagine. But
yes,
Mr. Adeyanju,
absolutely.
We have to thank you for your time on the program. And we really hope that the political space, both online and offline, is less toxic, because it doesn't do well for our democracy. Human rights activist and lawyer, Mr. Deji Adeyanju, thank you for your time. We wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
Well, we are sending an invite to those mentioned, Mr. Peter Obi, Sarah Ibrahim as well, for the right of reply if they so wish to take up that offer. But we'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll talk about yet another important issue. It's about the care for our parents, the elderly. A lot of Nigerians are leaving the country to go care for elderlies out there. But what happens to the elderly back home? That's in a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's switch gears from those issues to yet another issue that is of great concern to all of us, and that has to do with the elderly, our parents, who, what we see play out, especially in the system we run called Africa, is totally different from what happens abroad. And we see those care homes and all of that. But the data shows that by the time people turn 50 or 45, 50, they have either lost a parent, one of the parents, or both. And this raises a lot of question about the care for the elderly when they are at the twilight of their lives. We're being joined on the program by a geriatric care professional, co-founder, Gero Care Solutions, Dr. Obi Offrey, joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Offrey, Dr. Offrey, rather, thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Give us an overview, because we've seen some data that you worked on, that by 45, most Nigerians have already lost one or both parents, mainly due to preventable and manageable conditions. Regular structured doctor visits significantly improve survival odds, reduce the chances that your parents won't be around in the middle age. And you wrote out a couple of numbers here: typical parent ages, chances of both parents being alive, chances. So give us an overview of what this research is about.
Okay, thank you very much. Interestingly, I like to say that this is a crisis that no one is speaking about, a major health crisis. Because you hear that, for instance, in Nigeria, the life expectancy is 50, 55, but we never understand how it affects our lives. Because just saying that basically means that many people will not have their parents in old age. The typical age of childbearing for a woman is about 29 years old, and for a man is about 8 years after that. And such for the person, by the time you get to 40, 45, your mother is about 70-something, your father is 80-something, and life expectancy is 55. The truth is that in this scenario, we found out, we initially thought internally, that by 45, there's a 75% chance your parents will have passed, one or both will have passed away. But deeper research showed us that it's more like 90% or 94%. And the truth is that if you look around yourself, you actually detect all those things, but there are things happening around us we never know. And interestingly, we also feel when you hear about care for the elderly, our mind goes to indigent elderly, those who are poor, those who are vulnerable. We don't realize that our parents also fall into this group, because we feel they're well, they're healthy, they're doing well. But most of the time, that's not the situation. Interestingly, what brought my attention to this was that I've been a doctor for over 2 decades now. But about 10 years ago, in the space of 1 year, my father, that is also well-to-do, seemed to have 2 strokes in the space of 1 year. Before he passed, he could not even speak. And that was not because there's nothing I could have done. I was simply living and working in another location at the time. Subsequently, my mother called me, told me her blood pressure was high, blood sugar was high. But that was not even the main thing. For the first time, she voiced out her feelings. She said I had neglected them. But like many of us, I thought that was impossible. But after closely analyzing my life, I realized that while focused on my business and my immediate family, I had subconsciously neglected these people. And this story is not peculiar to me, but to millions of Africans living and working far away from where their parents are. And the only time they hear anything, most times, is when something goes tragically wrong. Especially because our parents have what they call a selfless love for us. They don't want to bother us because you are busy, you are doing well, and so on. But when things get too bad, we eventually find out. So the question was, why not put a structure in place to ensure they don't have to feel this way and can receive the care they need? So that's basically what my life has been about for the past 8 years, ensuring this can take place and ensuring people know about these things. Because many times they hear it, they're surprised, but it's actually happening. We need to pay attention to it and put a structure in place to solve that problem.
And that is why you founded a geriatric care,
Yes.
a care organization. And you know, this is a story of a lot of Nigerians.
Exactly.
I imagine people are watching right now. I don't know if they're feeling guilty or they're feeling, well, this is maybe just the card that life has dealt me, and I just have to find a way around it. But we have to speak solutions, because looking at some of the figures, it's the realities. You know, some of those things, you know them, you experience them, it's your reality, but until someone brings the figure close to you, you just realize, oh, that's actually true. So look at some of the figures. Over 60 or among Nigerians over 60, many of them suffer 2 or more non-communicable diseases.
Yeah.
I'm talking hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease. Many of them, at least 2 or 3 of those diseases they have. Over 40% of older Nigerians have at least 2 chronic conditions, and this sharply increases hospitalizations, sadly, premature death. No wonder we have life expectancy at such number. So what exactly is the solution here? Because for a lot of us people, they'll tell you, but we need to survive now. We need to japa. Ironically, the work they're doing in those countries are care jobs for the elderly, right? So what is the solution exactly?
So the truth is that usually in Africa and Nigeria in particular, the support system for the elderly is the family. Most of the time when you travel, someone is still left behind. And so we like to describe gero care as the sibling you're leaving back home that will do whatever you would have done if you were here. Many of these conditions can be prevented. However, unfortunately, there's a dearth of geriatricians and structures available. And so the key is to ensure it doesn't get there. So the best solution is to create a structured preventive care system for the elderly. In the past, unfortunately, this problem existed, but we could not find the solution. But fortunately now, technology has come to the point where something that could not have been done initially is now being done. We hear about the stories of Uber having a taxi service without taxis, Airbnb having a hotel service without hotels, and so on and so forth. So gero care is actually able to create a solution by creating a cloud-based hospital structure that replicates the entire experience of a hospital in the comfort of the patient's home, from doctor home visits to drugs at home and tests at home. So the idea is to be able to allow them have similar services at the back of in their homes anytime they need without needing to go to the hospital. Most of the time, we also realize that, for instance, mama has a headache. She knows she has a headache, but she understands the logistics and the problems she has to go through to get to the hospital. And so because of that, she waits and calls Brian Maker nearby to buy her paracetamol. However, that continues until it becomes an emergency. What if at the point of time where she had the headache, someone could be able to visit her at home, a medical doctor, and take care of that problem to prevent it going further down the line? So the solution is a structured, preventive medical care system for the elderly. I know many will be thinking, but won't that be expensive? How will you get that done? Fortunately, over the years, gero care has provided a structure which we call the 4 Ps of sustainable healthcare for the elderly, which is first a payer system, accessibility, affordability, and prevention.
So what you're saying in essence is we need to have more geriatric care centers to cater to these elderly people.
So what I'm saying is that we need to have more access to care before it necessitates a geriatrician coming in or a specialist, because we can never have enough. We don't have enough doctors, not specialists. So what can we do to ensure that it never gets to that point? Is by seeing them regularly and catching conditions at a very early stage.
Interesting. This is a very important conversation, and I'm happy we're having this conversation. So basically, you're saying that this process is driven by technology.
Yes.
So in terms of buy-in, from your personal experience as a professional in that space, in terms of buying, so because when we look at some of these things that we're talking about, we have elderly people all around us in Nigeria, beyond our parents, beyond our aunties and uncles, and all of these people around, beyond the many people we know that we don't need to go too far to get to see them. There are several other people who you've mentioned in passing that are vulnerable persons who we even are available for our parents. Some don't even have anybody to care for them. So as far as this is concerned, driven by, because there are 2 parts I'm looking at as far as this issue is concerned. First is the part of them being able to understand technology to be able to help themselves, at least before the help comes. So I want you to speak to that as well. Okay. And then the buy-in generally in terms of the populace, understanding and appreciating the work that goes into all of this.
Okay, perfect. So it's important to note, when I say technology, I don't mean the elderly people will use technology. I mean the people that are supposed to provide the care for them are using the technology. So for instance, in our own service, mama or papa has no interaction with technology. It is the child that books the appointments, has the accounts, able to subscribe for mama.
Okay.
All mama needs to do is to be able to answer a phone call. So once they sign up to the platform, they are matched to a doctor.
Right.
The doctor then calls mama to book the appointment, and he goes to see her. But similar to what happens in the clinic, he has a consultation with her, he has an examination, but instead of writing a physical prescription, he makes a request on his application that goes to our pharmacy network. You make a payment, we deliver to her at home. If they need investigations, he makes a request. You make the payment. We go home to take the lab sample. So she has the exact experience of a hospital in the comfort of the home without lifting a finger.
You know what's quite interesting? We talk about solutions, right? We talk about tech solutions.
Yes.
It's interesting to see that everybody is going in the direction of fintech. Any little tech solution, it has to be a payment solution, everything payment solutions. Where there are other problems waiting to be solved.
And this is a noble one.
Exactly, and I'm glad you spotlight this one. There, as I said, hundreds, thousands of Nigerians outside of the country doing gero care or geriatric care on a daily. In fact, some of them are probably catching up with this show, returning from a care job, overnight. And so how can we also harness that strength? Because a lot of people say, yes, we call it brain drain, but we can make it brain gain in that sense. So how can we harness that strength? Because I've had conversations with Nigerians out there that, you know what, come back home. We need you to solve problems back home. And they give you all of the, the usual list of the challenges. And I'm like, we can still make this work. So how can we harness all of that strength?
Okay. So first of all, it's important to note, like I tell people, them traveling is not by choice. It's necessitated by what they need to do to fend for the family.
Did you have to travel at some point too?
I did my studies outside the country, but I never really planned to go out because I'm a Nigerian by heart. I don't think I'm leaving anytime soon. But the idea is that we understand why it has to be done. And then why there's also been a problem was that there had never been a structure they could lean on. So, as you said, tech helps us to scale. Whether we have 5 doctors or whether we have 1,000 doctors, it doesn't change what we are doing because the software and the structure is already available. It's just to key into it and provide the services in your location. And that's why we're able to go very quickly because we have doctors across the country. So no matter where you are, you can join Gero Care to provide care for the elderly. In particular, you don't have to be a geriatrician. A medical officer is able to provide this GP care around the location. It's also important to know that many times when we think, care for the elderly, our mind just goes to caregivers. That is a small part of it. Because caregivers has to do with companionship and caring for them at home. We noted that one of the key problems is loneliness. I saw an interesting statistic that says loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Same effect. And so, yes, we are focused on the health, but the caregiving companionship is also key. But the doctor aspect is also important because daily we get calls for caregiver services, but people don't understand the caregivers are good, but we need the doctors also to see these people and ensure they're doing well. So they should go hand in hand. So with technology, the caregivers over there can assist in training because they learn new things every day. Our caregivers here learn from training centers, but we have a lot of people out there who want to give back. How can they give back? By training virtually, webinars, having YouTube channels and things like that. If you go to YouTube, for instance, there's no channel dedicated to caregivers. There's no channel dedicated to caring for your parents and so on. We are trying to do that, but it's not rampant. We can't say come back, but let's have your knowledge. Let the person that just left school be able to say, okay, for the next few weeks or next few months, I want to be able to learn some caregiving services and lend my care to people in my location. That's one thing that can be done.
So this is more like a call for maybe people to expand their horizon in terms of, is it community service, I'll call it now, or volunteering for taking care of the elderly?
Yes.
Because you said the person mustn't be a doctor. It could just be somebody who is there when the calls are coming in to be able to help. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so as part of our expansion, we're looking to have a structure whereby you can just even help the elderly person next door just to make an extra income. So it may be just essentials like grocery shopping, helping them out, or actual caregiving services, which will need the training. But the idea is that we have a mass of people available out there to care for these people. All they need is a little training to ensure they can do what they need to do.
It's a wake-up call, and
Big
we're
one.
glad that we've been able to put this out there, because a lot of people forget that you get to this point at some. I mean, if you're fortunate enough, you grow old. Every Gen Z right now, every millennial right now that is upwardly mobile. I mean, at some point you'll be 50, 60.
In the next 40 years, they'll be in their 60s.
80, 90, and you'll be in that same position. So we can call this selfless but enlightened self-interest, because at some point you would also get to enjoy.
Definitely.
You get these things. So thank you very much for the work that you do. We have to thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Dr. Obi Offer is a geriatric care professional, co-founder, Gero Care Solution. You're doing a great job, and we hope that the buy-in will be better than it is right now. Thank you, sir, for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk music, we'll talk reality, we'll talk the creative. In just a moment, stay with us.
Oh yes, so we're having a conversation just before we came back. So that conversation is going to spill into live. We're joined on the program by winner Nigerian Idols 2023. That's the 8th edition, Victory Bakara, or Victory Vac.
Hey, Bakara. Yeah, Victory Wax is fine.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning.
That almost caught my tongue there. Does that happen a lot for people?
It does.
So please pronounce your name. It's Victory
Bakara.
Bakara.
Yes.
It's a very powerful name, isn't it?
Thank you.
Where is that?
Robo, Delta State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I recall that you got like a Hero's Welcome in Delta State.
I did.
When you won the Idols in 2023. Yes. So speak to us first. A lot of people have said, it's one thing to win reality TV shows. And they give examples. In fact, there's a whole research that goes that has gone into people who won a lot of prize money. There was a lot of fame during either reality shows or game shows. And just few years down the line, they were even worse off than they were before they got into that reality show or the game show. But what has been your experience really before, during, and now after?
Before,
who were you before?
Before I was just Victory Bakara, you know. I was director of music at the university that I attended, Benson University, for about 3 years. So I'd already been into the leadership system in terms of creativity, directing, delegating your sound and making sure that the orchestra of your thought patterns musically are respected and transmitted. From there, surprisingly, I went to do NYSC at Ondo State, Akure. It was inside NYSC that I ran to Lagos to do Nigerian Idol.
What's that called? Was that dereliction of duty?
It is called the will of the Father.
Interesting. But you eventually finished NYSC?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. I finished. I got my certificate and everything. And Nigerian Idol wasn't even in the view for me, because personally, I don't like competitions. I personally do not like competitions, especially musical competitions.
Why?
Because judging a person's music and artistry is something. For example, when you get into top 10 for Nigerian Idol, this is basically the company saying any of these 10 people can become Nigerian Idol, which means any of these 10 people have the basic vocals, they have the stage presence, tenacity, and ability to communicate musically. In that span of 10 people, how do you now judge which is better? How do you now say that your experience in music, your 10-year experience is better than his 10-year experience? Do you understand that kind of thing? It's going to be objective. It's going to be an objective process.
Or subjective.
Or subjective, rather. Thank you. Subjective process.
So it's more like an aptitude test in that sense. It's not a measure of intelligence. It's just like somebody has to emerge.
Exactly, exactly. You know, and that's one of the reasons why the company gives the voting. It makes it a voting process. So Nigeria decides who wins.
And not every Nigerian understands music,
not every Nigerian.
Okay.
You could have people that love you to death, but they don't know how to support you. You understand? So it's actually literally by the grace of God that somebody could audition out of 7,000 people, get into top 30, get into top 10, and then win the show, you know? And I must say, life after Idols has been amazing. It has. Walking into somewhere and people looking at you and being like, I know you. Somebody stopped me at the airport in Benin. I went for a wedding celebration. I went to sing. And the man was just, I'm sorry, I've been looking at you since. And I'm on call with my wife right now and my kids. And I'm telling them that it's you. And they're telling me it's a lie. Can we do video call? And we did it. And they were so happy. They were so ecstatic, and it was just a beautiful experience. And I received that a lot. The honor of giving joy to people, especially in a country like Nigeria where we need it.
How much was the prize money?
35 million naira.
How much is left now?
5 billion.
A sharp guy. Sharp guy.
So talk to us about the post-victory. Besides the excitement, the honor of the service you give, the joy you transmit, and all the things you do. Let's talk about the music itself. When you went in and eventually you won, did it change your mindset as to, okay, this is me for the rest of my life? So how are you putting that together if the answer was a yes?
Yeah, I won't say it changed, I would say it solidifies. Or solidified what I originally wanted to do. I'm a gospel artist. I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in church. And I love church. Love God. I don't know how to explain it more than that, but that's just my person. Not because I was influenced or I have to live up to a certain standard. No, one of my love languages is church. If I take you to church, I love you. I love you a lot, you know? And Nigerian Idol just... They allowed me to be myself. They allowed me to, you want to do gospel, let's do gospel, and all of that, and all of that, and all of that. And it just solidified that I really want to be a gospel artist. I really do want to be a gospel artist, you know. Obviously, I think to piggyback on what you said prior, that there is a low after winning a reality TV show. You win, and then it just looks like there is this suspense or something. And I tell people, the reality TV shows, they make you famous, not successful. Those are two different things entirely. Success is built, but fame can come in a couple of months and just that, you know. And it's not easy to now turn fame into success. Thank God that the company that orchestrated Nigerian Idol made sure to put me in their rear, you know, mentor me, give me one or two things. And in fact, we came up with an EP that is out right now. It's called The Message, and it's a gospel EP.
Now, I'm going to give you a very interesting follow-up. You see, if you open your Bible to the book of 1 John, chapter 5, verse 21, it says, yes, children, keep yourselves from idols.
Go on.
But here you are, an idol yourself.
The idol.
So I've heard that debate a lot, and I want to push it to you. How did it feel, or how does it still feel like being an idol when the scriptures say, in fact, do not make an idol for yourself. Stay away from idolatry. So
this is interesting.
How does that work for you? Because it's actually a debate I've heard a lot. So I want you to speak to it. I like the fact that you're a gospel artist. You love church.
Yeah.
But you're an idol.
Yeah. Okay. I can come at this with two ways. First of all, let's come at it with the most fundamental.
Right.
The most fundamental is I've noticed that a lot of people, unfortunately, if I may, a lot of people, including pastors, do not know how to read scriptures. Right. So just because it is written to you does not mean it is written for you. For example, some parts of the Old Testament were written for the people in the Old Testament. And then you notice that we are part of the New Testament, the New Covenant. So if you read the Old Testament without first understanding where you are in the New, you will go according to the Old. And that is not what it is. So a lot of times Nigerians, we don't know how to read context. Pretext, the text, then protext gives you context of scriptures. Now when the Bible talks about idols, the Bible talks about putting anything above God, putting anything, worshiping anything that is not God. Refrain yourself from idols. Refrain yourself from worshiping anything that is not the Father, that is not Christ. I'm not being worshipped. I'm just being loved. I'm just, when we say idol now, idol means a star. He's my idol. He's what I want to be when I grow up. And by God's grace, we have Nigerian Idol. And in fact, your standpoint of this, or the example is not your standpoint, I apologize. I apologize. The example you gave, a lot of people gave my parents when I was in Nigerian Idol, because my father's an archbishop and my mom's a bishop. And they gave them these examples. And they were telling them, how will your child go to that place? And, you know, me, I was like, I know they. You know, me drag me. And I'm grateful for the people that I have as parents. God bless them, really. They did not give one hoot concerning what anybody said. They were secured in the person that they raised, secured in the man and his principles, and secured that this is not bad. In fact, this is an opportunity.
So you're okay being an idol?
Oh, yes.
No, even beyond that, beyond the issue of the context and all of that, there's also the argument as to the, because I know that, was it Mercy Chinwo? She also won this thing.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she did.
Very well. There's also, because I know that church boys and ladies like you have a conflict in your mind most of the time as to whether this is a path or not. The reason is because if you grow up in the very conservative space in churches, you just say that you're not supposed to sing worldly music, you're not supposed to do all these worldly things. So now you're going to be singing Michael Jackson and all of these other, you know, I could call many names. So how did you navigate that particular situation in your head? In your head?
In my head? Ooh. In my head, I have always known a very, very inclusive gospel. I would explain that. We are saved to engage, not escape. When the Bible in Genesis talks about dominion of earth, it didn't say dominion of the church. Control however space you can control. Christianity is the only religion that will get saved, right, and then go back and fall into the church, and then leave every other part of the economy, praying for the economy, but not going into the economy to change the economy. That's what we do. And so when you don't influence that sector, and that sector becomes influenced by other things, you are not saying that it is worldly. No, you are just relieving yourself of your responsibilities. We are in channels right now. We discuss politics. We discuss the elderly. Now we're discussing music. Nobody has said give offering or something like that. But just imagine you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, we're controlling this space. Somebody cannot come from somewhere and drop 3 billion and say something that is not true, because our integrity is there. So I feel like Christians have removed themselves from certain spaces upon which they themselves are supposed to be there to control the narrative of how good that space should be, of how well-oriented that space should be. You
know, I'm not surprised that you have a message for us today, or you're delivering a message, because that's the title of your EP, The Message. So man is just dropping message, bites upon bites. And I must say that this has been a very interesting conversation. You studied law.
Yes, I did.
Did you go to law school after that?
Yes, I did.
So, okay. Well,
are you practicing? Are you practicing?
Currently, yes and no.
Okay.
I'm not even sure what that means.
I don't know what that means.
But please, go ahead, stream his latest EP, The Message. I wanted to ask if you have shown someone that love language of late, taking them to church.
Taking them to church.
Do you have someone that you take to church consistently?
Consistently?
A particular person, a woman now, that you're showing that love language.
A female?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A born female.
A born, very important.
Very important. I know you know what I mean, or what we're asking.
I'm oblivious.
You're oblivious. May the Lord find
we know that we have found souls.
You don't know how to lie very well.
Yes.
Lying is not a skill set for you.
Unfortunately, and I'm a lawyer. Can you imagine?
So is there that person? Yes or no?
There is a person.
Yeah.
That I take to church.
Yeah.
Yes, I invite a lot of people to church.
You show your love language to.
Yes, I invite a lot of people to church. In fact, I would like to invite you to church.
No, not that. Not in that way. Victory, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I must say that it's refreshing to have this kind of conversation. I know that you have your head in the right place. We've been speaking with Victory Bakara. That's a full surname. Winner Nigerian Idols. He has his EP out. So please stream, support good music, and wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. God bless you.
Well, there you have it. That is the show for today, our Friday edition. I'm Kayode Okikili.
And I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Remember, Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. Enjoy your weekend. See you next week, God willing. Bye-bye.